Last year, a 67-year-old woman in Manchester was told her kidneys were failing. Her doctor asked her one simple question. "How much chocolate do you eat?" She said, "Every day." "Just a square or two." Cadbury, the one she had eaten her whole life. What her doctor told her next shocked her entire family. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why. Stay with me. Because number one on this list is sitting in 40 million British homes right now, and almost nobody knows what it is actually doing to their body. Here is the truth nobody in the food industry wants you to hear. Chocolate is the most trusted food in Britain. More trusted than bread, more trusted than milk. You have eaten it since you were a child. You give it to your grandchildren today. Your doctor has never once sat you down and warned you about it. But over the last 5 years, independent laboratories, university researchers, and food safety investigators have been uncovering something that the billion-pound chocolate industry is spending millions to bury. The chocolate you grew up with is not the chocolate you are eating today. The wrappers look identical. The names are the same. The memories feel exactly the same. But inside that wrapper, everything has changed, and for anyone over 50, what is now inside that wrapper could be silently damaging your kidneys, interfering with your heart medication, and speeding up memory loss. This is not scare tactics. These are laboratory results, peer-reviewed studies, and findings from the Food Standards Agency itself. Let us go through every single one. We start with the one that will hurt the most: Cadbury Dairy Milk, the purple wrapper, the glass and a half. The chocolate your mother kept in the kitchen cupboard and your grandmother gave you as a treat. For nearly 200 years, Cadbury was genuinely British, born in Birmingham, built on Quaker values, made with real care by people who lived in the same communities as the people buying it. I am not here to destroy that memory. I am here to tell you honestly that the company behind that memory no longer exists. In 2010, American food giant Kraft Foods launched a hostile takeover of Cadbury. The British public protested. Workers marched. Politicians spoke out. Former Prime Minister Gordon Brown called it a matter of national concern. Kraft did not care. They paid £11.5 billion, took the keys, and within 12 months quietly changed the recipe. Food journalists noticed immediately. Chocolate experts noticed. And millions of ordinary British people who had eaten dairy milk their entire lives noticed. The texture became grainier. The melt felt waxier. The deep cocoa richness they had known since childhood was gone. Cadbury denied everything publicly, but internal documents later obtained by journalists confirmed exactly what people had tasted. Cheaper ingredients had been substituted while the nostalgic branding remained perfectly preserved. But a change in taste is the least of your worries. In 2023, Consumer Reports, one of the most respected independent testing organizations in the world, conducted laboratory analysis on dozens of popular chocolate brands, specifically testing for heavy metals. Cadbury products tested positive for both lead and cadmium. Cadbury's official response was that their products meet all regulatory standards. And technically that is true. But here is the question that nobody in the media is asking. Those regulatory standards were written in the 1980s. Decades before scientists understood how heavy metals accumulate in the human body over a lifetime of exposure. Lead does not flush out. It does not disappear. It builds up slowly and silently in your bones and your blood over years and decades. A landmark 2022 study from Columbia University found that lifetime lead accumulation is directly linked to rising blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, and accelerating cognitive decline in adults over 60. And cadmium is even more targeted in the damage it causes. It goes straight for the kidneys. Here is something your doctor will probably never tell you because they are not thinking about chocolate when they review your test results. After the age of 50, you naturally lose roughly 1% of kidney function every single year. That is normal biology, but cadmium dramatically accelerates that loss. It compounds damage that is already happening. If you are over 50 and eating Cadbury regularly, and a 2022 survey found that 62% of British adults over 50 eat chocolate at least 3 times a week, you are adding cadmium pressure to kidneys that are already under strain simply from the process of aging. Your GP is not connecting those dots. They are not asking about chocolate. But the damage is accumulating quietly with every single bar. And then there is the sugar. One standard 45-gram dairy milk bar contains 26 grams of sugar. The British Heart Foundation's recommended daily maximum for a healthy adult is 30 grams. One bar takes you to 87% of your entire day's safe limit before you have eaten a single meal. For anyone managing type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, or taking any medication that affects blood sugar, that one bar can destabilize your glucose levels for the next 4 to 6 hours. The Cadbury your parents trusted was made by a different company with different ownership and different values. What is in that purple wrapper today is cheaper ingredients, measurable levels of heavy metals, and nearly a full day's worth of sugar in a single sitting. They kept the wrapper, they kept the nostalgia, they kept the memories, and they quietly swapped out everything that was actually inside. At number 8 we have Galaxy. Galaxy sells you a feeling before it sells you a product. The slow motion adverts, the silk, the indulgence, the carefully crafted sense that you are choosing something premium, something above the ordinary. But I want to show you one single fact that the marketing department will never put on your screen. Galaxy milk chocolate contains just 25% cocoa solids. That is the absolute legal minimum required to call a product chocolate in the United Kingdom. 1% less, and it cannot legally use the word chocolate on the label at all. So what fills the remaining 75% of every Galaxy bar? Sugar, milk powder, vegetable fats. You are not eating chocolate in any meaningful sense. You are eating an industrially engineered fat and sugar block with a brown color and a premium price tag attached to it. Now add this on top. Galaxy is manufactured by Mars Incorporated, one of the largest food corporations on the planet. Mars sources its cocoa primarily from West Africa, from Ghana and Ivory Coast. In 2022, the non-profit organization As You Sow published independent laboratory results showing that multiple Mars chocolate products contained concerning levels of both lead and cadmium. Mars disputed the findings. But here is the reality of how food contamination works. When cocoa is grown in soil contaminated with heavy metals, and vast stretches of West African farmland carry this problem as a direct result of decades of industrial agriculture, those metals do not stay in the soil. They travel through every single product that supply chain produces, and every product Mars makes runs through the same supply chain. A 2023 study published in The Lancet, one of the most authoritative medical journals in the world, concluded that cumulative lifetime lead exposure is among the most significant and most under-recognized drivers of age-related cognitive decline and dementia in older adults. Not a single large exposure, cumulative, small amounts absorbed consistently over years and decades. Every bar adds to a running total that your body is tracking even when you are not. Galaxy is not a premium product. It is a legally minimum standard product dressed from head to toe in premium marketing. For seniors managing their long-term health, it offers nothing of value. Not nutrition, not quality, not safety. At number 7, Quality Street. Let me ask you something honest. When did you last open a Quality Street tin at Christmas and genuinely feel like you got your money's worth? If you are struggling to answer that, you are not imagining it and you are not being ungrateful. Over the past decade, Nestle has been running one of the most quietly brazen shrinkflation operations in the history of British food. The classic Quality Street tin that once contained over 1 full kilogram of chocolates now holds less than 600 grams in most versions currently on sale. That is a 40% reduction in actual product, while the price has consistently gone up. Nestle does not hold a press conference to announce this. They simply shrink the tin slightly, adjust the shape, rearrange the chocolates so the empty space is less visible, and they rely correctly on the fact that most people will not think to weigh it. They trust the tin because they have always trusted the tin. But the shrinkflation is genuinely the least dangerous thing happening inside that festive packaging. Quality Street chocolates contain palm oil, and for anyone currently taking statins or actively managing their cholesterol, this is not a minor concern. A 2021 study published in the Journal of the American Heart Association directly compared the effects of different common dietary fats on LDL cholesterol levels. Palm oil raised dangerous LDL cholesterol more aggressively than almost any other fat included in the study. If you are taking a atorvastatin, rosuvastatin, or any other statin prescribed to bring your cholesterol down, eating palm oil on a regular basis is working in the direct opposite direction to your medication. Your statin pushes your LDL down. The Quality Street pushes it back up. Every Christmas, every family gathering, every time the tin comes out, and not one person in that room is making that connection. Beyond the palm oil, The toffees and caramels in Quality Street contain levels of sodium that are consistently overlooked. For seniors managing high blood pressure, sodium accumulates silently throughout the day. A handful of toffees on Christmas afternoon can quietly reverse 3 weeks of careful low-sodium eating without you ever tasting anything salty. Nestle knows precisely who buys Quality Street. Their own market research tells them it is bought overwhelmingly by people over 55, by grandparents, by people who have been buying the same tin since the 1970s. They know the audience. And they have responded by making the tin smaller, the ingredients cheaper, and the health consequences more serious while charging more for the privilege of the familiar packaging. The tin looks the same. The memories are the same. The product inside and the damage it can quietly cause are not the same at all. At number 6, Lindt Lindor. Lindt may be the most sophisticated deception on this entire list. Because Lindt does not simply sell you chocolate, it sells you a carefully constructed identity. The gold foil, the Swiss heritage stretching back generations, the master chocolatier in the white coat, the truffle center that melts at the precise moment it meets your tongue. When you choose Lindor, you feel as though you have made a genuinely good decision, a discerning decision. But that melting center has a name in food science laboratories. It is called hitting the bliss point. It is a precisely calculated combination of fat content, sugar ratio, and melt temperature that was engineered specifically to temporarily override your brain's natural satiety signal, the mechanism that tells you that you have had enough. You were never going to eat one Lindor truffle. The product was never designed to be eaten one at a time. 4 or 5 in a sitting is completely normal, and it is exactly the consumption pattern the engineering was designed to produce. 4 or 5 truffles delivers between 35 and 40 grams of sugar and well over 350 calories. That is the caloric equivalent of a full meal with zero nutritional return. But the more serious concern again comes from independent laboratory testing. In 2022, Consumer Reports specifically tested Lindt dark chocolate bars. The results showed lead and cadmium levels exceeded the thresholds that independent researchers consider safe for people consuming chocolate on a regular basis. Lindt's response was identical to every other company on this list. We meet all current regulatory requirements. But for seniors, there is a dimension to heavy metal exposure that almost nobody discusses publicly. Lead is stored in bone tissue. As bone density naturally decreases with age, a process that accelerates significantly after menopause in women and after the age of 60 in men, that stored lead does not stay locked away. It re-enters the bloodstream. Every year as your bones naturally age, your body is already releasing lead that accumulated over your entire lifetime. Every new exposure from food sources adds to a reservoir that your own biology will eventually release back into your blood at the time in your life when you can least afford additional cardiovascular and neurological strain. The gold foil is genuine. The Swiss heritage is genuine. The compounding health risk concealed behind the elegance is equally genuine. At number 5, Thornton's. Some of you will remember exactly what it felt like to walk into a Thornton's shop. The warmth hit you before the door had fully opened. The smell of fresh chocolate. Glass counters with handmade truffles displayed like jewelry. Staff who could tell you exactly what was in every single piece and which ones would suit the person you were buying for. You would choose each chocolate individually. Have a name written on the box. It felt genuinely special because it was genuinely special. That Thornton's is completely gone. Ferrero acquired the company and methodically dismantled what made it what it was. The high street shops were closed one by one until virtually none remained. The artisan production was replaced with industrial manufacturing at scale, and the chocolates that once tasted as though they had been made by hand that morning now contain palm oil, glucose syrup, and artificial flavorings. Those 3 ingredients tell you everything about the transformation a brand undergoes when the priority shifts from quality to margin. Palm oil because it is cheap and extends shelf life even though it directly raises dangerous LDL cholesterol. Glucose syrup because it is cheaper than real sugar and spikes blood glucose even faster than the refined sugar it replaces. Artificial flavorings because real ingredients cost more, and because adults over 50 are increasingly sensitive to synthetic additives in ways that can trigger headaches, digestive discomfort, and inflammatory responses. A 2023 survey conducted by Which? Magazine ranked Thornton's among the most complained about chocolate brands in the entire UK market. Customers reported stale chocolates, broken pieces arriving in gift boxes costing £25 or more, flavors that bore no resemblance to their descriptions on the packaging. For seniors, spending real money on what they genuinely believe is a quality gift for someone they love. That is not a minor disappointment. It is a betrayal packaged in gold and tied with a ribbon. At number 4, Mars bars. Work, rest and play. That slogan ran on British television for 3 decades. It told you the Mars bar was part of a balanced life, a reward that belonged in a healthy routine. Here is what that bar actually contains in 2025. A standard 51-gram Mars bar holds over 30 grams of sugar. A 330-milliliter can of Coca-Cola contains 35 grams. A Mars bar delivers nearly as much sugar as a full can of Coke in something you can finish in 3 bites without even thinking of it as a drink. But the sugar is only the beginning of the problem. Mars bars contain glucose fructose syrup. This is not the same as ordinary sugar, and your body does not treat it the same way. Glucose fructose syrup is an industrially processed sweetener that bypasses the normal metabolic pathways your liver uses to process natural sugars. A 2021 study published in the journal Hepatology, a leading publication in liver disease research, found that regular consumption of glucose fructose syrup significantly increased the risk of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, with the risk elevated most sharply in adults over 50. Your liver is already carrying a heavier load as you age. It is metabolizing your medications, regulating your cholesterol, processing everything that passes through your body. Placing glucose fructose syrup stress on top of that existing burden is a risk that builds slowly and invisibly until test results start showing things that your doctor struggles to explain. Mars has added clearer nutritional labeling. They have modestly reduced some portion sizes. But they have not touched the fundamental formula, because the fundamental formula is what drives sales. Your long-term health is not factored into that calculation. At number 3, Kinder. Everything else on this list concerns ingredients, contamination risks, and the long-term accumulation of substances that damage your health gradually over time. Kinder is different. Kinder is about a decision that a corporation made when it knew its product was dangerous and chose to keep selling it anyway. In early 2022, internal testing at Ferrero's production facility in Arlon, Belgium detected salmonella bacteria on the manufacturing lines. Their own quality control systems identified the contamination. The company was aware, and they kept the lines running. Weeks passed, then months. During that time, over 400 people across Europe were infected. Children were hospitalized across multiple countries, including the United Kingdom. Cases were being reported to public health authorities. Only after the Food Standards Agency issued urgent public warnings and trading standards launched formal investigations did Ferrero finally issue a recall. Subsequent reporting revealed that the company had possessed internal knowledge of the contamination for months before a single product was removed from a single shelf. For a healthy adult in their 30s or 40s, salmonella is a serious and miserable illness that typically resolves within a week. For adults over 65, the NHS's own published data shows they are 4 times more likely to require hospitalization. The risks at that stage include severe dehydration, acute kidney failure, and bacteremia, the condition where the infection crosses into the bloodstream and becomes directly life-threatening. 4 times more likely. And yet, within months of a contamination scandal that infected hundreds of people across an entire continent, Kinder products were back on every supermarket shelf in Britain. The same packaging, the same smiling children, no visible acknowledgement that anything had ever happened. The happy faces on those wrappers did not protect 400 people when the company knew there was a problem. They will not protect you now. At number 2, Hotel Chocolate. Hotel Chocolate built an identity that felt genuinely different from everything else in the market. British-owned, cacao grown on their own estate in St. Lucia. Artisan methods, premium prices that felt justified because the values behind them felt real. When you handed someone a Hotel Chocolate gift box, you were communicating something, that you cared enough to choose better, that the person receiving it deserved more than an industrial product in fancy packaging. In 2024, that identity was acquired by Mars Incorporated. The same corporation behind the Mars Bar Galaxy, Celebrations, and multiple other brands we have discussed today. Hotel Chocolate had faced serious financial difficulties and Mars moved in. The independent British brand with the ethical plantation and the artisan story is now owned by the same multinational that produces the most aggressively mass-market confectionery in the country. The same shareholders, the same board demanding quarterly growth. The same institutional pressure to reduce ingredient costs, scale up production volume, and protect margins. The full effects of that ownership change have not yet worked their way fully through to the products on the shelves. These transitions take time. But the direction of travel is not ambiguous. When a company like Mars acquires a premium brand, they do not acquire it to preserve what made it premium. They acquire it to extract commercial value from the brand recognition while gradually bringing the underlying product into alignment with their standard operating model. The box will remain beautiful for some time yet. The language of craftsmanship and ethics will remain on the website. But the chocolate inside will quietly become something different. And even before the acquisition, hotel chocolate products were never as healthy as their pricing implied. High sugar content across most of the range. Palm oil present in several product lines. Calorie counts that rivaled the mass-market brands they positioned themselves above. You were paying substantially for the story and the values. Now even those have been sold. And at number 1, the single most dangerous chocolate product for seniors currently available in Britain, Celebrations. That round plastic tub that appears at every Christmas gathering, every office party, every family afternoon. Mars, Snickers, Twix, Milky Way, Bounty, all your favorite bars in miniature, all sitting unwrapped and immediately accessible in a shared container that nobody closes between visits. Let me give you the mathematics that Mars will never print on the side of that tub. One miniature Snickers contains approximately 90 calories and 8 grams of sugar. On its own, that seems genuinely manageable. But in 2019, a study published in the peer-reviewed journal Appetite measured exactly what happens to total calorie consumption when identical food is presented in small individual pieces rather than as a single larger portion. Participants consumed significantly more total calories from the small piece format every single time. The reason is a well-documented psychological phenomenon called unit bias. The human brain categorizes small individual items as insignificant regardless of how many are consumed. Each small piece registers as a minor, inconsequential choice. The cumulative total never gets calculated consciously because the brain never triggers the evaluation that would prompt it. There is no unwrapping to interrupt the pattern, no breaking or cutting to create a pause, no moment of friction between the decision and the consumption. You reach in, you eat it. You are reaching again before the first one has registered. 5 pieces becomes 8, 8 becomes 10. Nobody planned to eat 10. Nobody counts to 10. But almost nobody stops at 3 either. At 10 pieces from a Celebrations tub, you have consumed approximately 900 calories and close to 100 grams of sugar. The recommended daily maximum for sugar is 30 grams. 10 pieces of Celebrations delivers more than 3 times your entire daily safe limit. In one afternoon, from a tub on a coffee table. For anyone managing type 2 diabetes, that sugar load can destabilize blood glucose levels for the following 24 hours. For anyone on heart medication, the combination of saturated fat and rapidly absorbed sugar can interfere with how those medications are absorbed and increase cardiovascular strain. For anyone who has been carefully managing their weight, one afternoon with an open Celebrations tub can erase a full week of disciplined eating in a single sitting. And the overconsumption is not a failure of willpower. It is the intended result. Every element of the Celebrations format, the small size, the pre-unwrapped pieces, the variety that keeps the choice feeling fresh, the open accessible container, was designed by food scientists and behavioral psychologists who understood unit bias and built an entire product format around exploiting it. This is not an accident. It is engineering. The colorful tub on your coffee table is not a celebration. It is the most effectively designed overconsumption trap in the British confectionery industry. Now here is what actually matters. Because the purpose of everything I have just told you is not to take chocolate away from you. Chocolate at its best is genuinely one of life's great pleasures. The purpose is to make sure that when you eat chocolate, it is not working quietly and invisibly against your health, your medication, and everything you are trying to protect. There are 2 British brands that are doing this completely differently, and I want you to know about them. Willie Harcourt. Hughes is a British chocolatier who in 2002 made a decision that almost nobody in the industry understood at the time. He bought an actual cacao farm in Venezuela, not a marketing arrangement with a farm, not a sourcing agreement, an actual farm that he personally manages. He learned every stage of the process, from growing the beans to fermenting them to roasting them to making the finished chocolate. Willie's cacao bars contain 2 ingredients: In many cases, literally two. Cacao and sugar. No palm oil, no glucose syrup, no emulsifiers, no artificial flavorings of any kind. The ingredient list is short not because it has been edited for marketing purposes, but because there is genuinely nothing else in the product. The cocoa content runs at 70% or higher across most of the range. This matters significantly for your health. Multiple peer-reviewed studies have now demonstrated that genuinely high cocoa dark chocolate consumed in moderation is associated with measurable improvements in cardiovascular function, meaningful reductions in blood pressure, and antioxidant activity that supports healthy cellular aging. For seniors, this is chocolate that works with your body rather than against it. Because the supply chain runs from a single known farm through a controlled production process directly to the shelf, the contamination risks that are inherent in the long, complex supply chains of industrial chocolate producers are dramatically reduced. You know precisely where the cacao was grown. You know the conditions it was grown in. You know who made the chocolate and how. There are no unknown stages in the chain where contamination can enter undetected. Yes, a Willie's bar costs between £4 and £5 rather than 1 or 2. But you are paying for what chocolate actually is when the person making it has not cut a single corner. You can find Willie's cacao in Waitrose, Ocado, and independent retailers across the United Kingdom. Montezuma's was founded in West Sussex in the year 2000 by Helen and Simon Pattinson. 25 years later, they still own it. There has been no acquisition, no approach from Mars or Ferrero or Nestle, no shareholders requiring quarterly growth targets to be met at the expense of the product. The same two people who started the company still personally control the recipe. They still visit their supplier farms. They still know the families who grow the cacao. Montezuma's holds full organic certification, meaning no synthetic pesticides or artificial fertilizers are used anywhere in their production chain. For seniors who are already managing multiple medications, removing unnecessary chemical exposure from your diet wherever possible is not a minor consideration. It is meaningful. Their dark chocolate range maintains high cocoa percentages with minimal sugar, and several varieties use coconut sugar as an alternative to refined white sugar, a lower glycemic option that places considerably less stress on blood glucose levels. The pricing sits comfortably between standard supermarket chocolate and the premium end of the market. It is genuinely accessible, and unlike hotel chocolate, what you are paying for has not been transferred to a multinational corporation. You can find Montezuma's in Waitrose, Sainsbury's, and independent retailers across the country. Let me leave you with one thought before you go. Every single brand we have discussed today built their place in your life on your trust, your childhood memories, your family traditions. The purple wrapper at Christmas, the gold box for a birthday, the celebrations tub at every gathering. They did not earn that trust by consistently making the best possible product. They earned it by making you feel year after year that they had, and while that feeling was carefully maintained and the packaging stayed reassuringly familiar, the recipes changed. The ownership changed. The ingredients were substituted for cheaper alternatives. The supply chains grew longer and harder to trace and easier for contamination to enter undetected. The nostalgia was preserved with extraordinary care. The quality and the safety were not. You are under no obligation to continue trusting brands that quietly stopped deserving that trust. You are not being difficult by reading an ingredient list before you buy. You are not being excessive by choosing to spend slightly more on chocolate that tells you exactly what is in it and where it came from. You have spent decades building and protecting your health. You take your medication. You watch what you eat. You make the effort. Do not let a familiar wrapper or a nostalgic tin quietly undo that simply because it has always been there. If this video gave you something genuinely useful, please share it with someone who needs to see it. Not for the view count. For them, a parent, a grandparent, a friend who has eaten dairy milk every single day for 50 years and has never once been told what may have been quietly accumulating in their body all that time. Subscribe if you want to keep seeing content that is trying to protect you rather than sell you something. And tell me in the comments which brand on this list surprised you the most. I read every single one.